After what felt like an eternity, the long-awaited arrival of Stygian Zinogre finally came. He brought with him the Stygian Tristitia. Most of us in the hunting horn community put some pretty high expectations on this one. Let's take a look at the stats and songs of the Stygian Tristitia. We start off on good footing with a solid raw attack of 1134. Then we come to probably the strongest part of the horn with a nice chunk of natural purple sharpness. I want to take a second here to tell you guys, please be careful the videos you watch in respect to hunting horns, and don't take what they say as gospel, even my videos. I watched a video that recently got put up by a pretty prominent monster hunter content creator, and they talked about how sharpness isn't a big deal with hunting horns, and that really could not be farther from the truth. You absolutely rip through sharpness like toilet paper with hunting horn. But back to the stats. 0% affinity at base, which is a tiny bit disappointing, but it could be worse. We could start out at negative 30% after all. A pretty docile 360 dragon element to go along with an average level of Elder Seal. Rounding out the stats, we have a single level 2 slot, so if you're a protective polish person, there's a slot there for your sharp decoration. The song set isn't anything that will blow you out of the water, but when paired with the right horn, it can provide some good boost. Unfortunately, like the base Zinogre horn, I don't feel like the element here is high enough to really benefit as much as something like the Dragon Bone or Kirin horns. Sonic Wave is a little bit too niche to really make regular use of. Blight Resistance seems a little redundant to me when Blight Negated is on the same horn, but if I'm missing something, by all means let me know in the comments below. Elemental Attack Boost does help to improve our DPS, but most likely not as much as something like an Attack Up L would do for a horn like this. Earplugs S can come in handy when you're grinding out weaker monsters, or if they pop into your hunt and try to annoyingly roar and run away. Wind Pressure Negated also has a decent number of situations where it comes in handy to keep a monster from getting in their gusty knockbacks and attacks. Echo Wave Dragon is always a welcome addition, even though, as you guys so pointedly called out, it should be an Elemental Wave instead of just Dragon Wave. Finally, Elemental Effectiveness Up helps to bring up a monster's vulnerability to the elements. The build I used for this one was a Master's Touch and Crit Element mix. I know this thing has a solid chunk of purple, but I still highly recommend that you either use Master's Touch, Protective Polish, or Razor Sharp, because as I said before, Hunting Horn tears through sharpness like nothing. Outside of that, do what you like and have fun with it. This isn't a horn that will compete for top DPS status, so don't stress it when you're not pulling rasping ballad numbers. As I said in the beginning, we put up some pretty high expectations for this horn, so the fact that it fell a bit short was to be expected. Let me be clear, this is a good horn, a really good one. It's just not the Dragon Savior we hoped it would be. It's absolutely a viable option for that though. It still gets outpaced in that sense with Shara, but you also don't have to use any Element Awakening, so it'll most likely be a preference thing from hunter to hunter. Like I said, Elemental Attack Boost can definitely be game-changing in the right situation, so you might have hunters and group hunts that still benefit from it greatly. Not to mention the fact you have Blight Negated added on to stave off annoying things like water, ice, and the other annoying blights completely. As long as you do your best to keep your sharpness up to speed, you can have a pretty solid horn in your hands at all times. As far as the design goes, as we know, it's a color change to the regular Zinogre, but I have to say I like the black and red better than the original. I think a cool added touch for each of the horns would have them both have lightning arcing around them while self-improvement is in effect. But a man can dream. So now we make our way to the soundtrack. As I said with the original Zinogre track, I definitely like it a lot, but instead of the other sounds added in, I probably would rather they just have the guitar in there and nothing else. Still a thumbs up though. Should you craft this horn? Definitely. It looks great to me. The sound may be the same as Zinogre's, but it's not as bad of a soundtrack to copy at all. It's not going to shake up people's meta, but if you want to switch things up, this isn't going to set you back substantially. I'll definitely be using it for Dragon Week situations and enjoying every second that I do. I don't know about you guys, but I set a high bar for this one, and even though it doesn't reach it, it still gets the job done and does it pretty well. The only downsides about crafting it is that you'll have to grind out the Tundra Guiding Lands area to 7, and you also need a mantle, so you might be grinding out some investigations for a bit, which sadly I had to do. But that's going to be it for this one, guys. Long story short, this horn isn't what I expected, but it's still beautiful and a good horn that I'll definitely throw in my rotation. Now we have the Sappy horns to look forward to, and my hype level is way up. If you liked the video, please do let me know with a thumbs up. Comment below what your thoughts are of the Stygian Tristitia, and if it met your expectations. Subscribe if you haven't already for more Iceborne and hunting horn content. Have a good night, and happy hunting.